This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset me.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy Rashidian is my other half, co-host, and the brain and the wise.
What did you do last week? You didn't have to come up with all of those wonderful titles and job
That's right. We had
descriptions.
Dr. Gale and Dr. Cole Talton, Dr. Gale Merhi. They did a good job.
Yeah.
I think they're a couple of brilliant chiropractors who have a lot of great knowledge. And so if you haven't seen that episode, go back and look at it.
Please do.
We talked a little bit about dementia, which was really neat, like signs of dementia and how memory loss isn't the only one. We talked about improving memory. We talked about protein powders and diet and so on.
Good stuff.
Got a little bit into bodybuilding.
And I'm glad that everybody had a chance to meet them, because
Yeah.
a lot of our patients, especially if you're at one location or another, or maybe you don't even come into the office, you may not even know that we have these brilliant young minds in our organization. They are just amazing doctors. They're amazing human beings. They just really love on our patients, and I feel really blessed that they're ours.
Yeah.
So,
And
I've been trying to get a girl doctor for so long. It's been 4 years. So I know a lot of you guys who have followed us or who know us well know that that's been a huge gap in our practice, is just having a female doctor that really has a passion for women's health. And we're going to talk a little bit about women's health. I wish she was here today to unpack this with us.
Yeah.
And she has a passion for babies. And so I'm very excited to have her. And then, of course, Dr. Cole's doing an amazing job. He has a great passion for athletes and just getting people better. And so, man, we have a powerhouse team.
High-level degrees in athletic training, and he's an
yeah.
athlete himself. So they talked about themselves a little bit,
That's
which
good.
was
I'm so
nice.
glad.
Dr. Cole was dressed in a nice, sharp suit.
Of course he was.
He always looks great.
Yeah. Yeah, he's awesome. So
And Dr. Gale was just so intelligent, and just you can hear kindness in her voice so much. But the Real Health Podcast is where we take the news and information latest from any mainstream media that you may be exposed to. And what we do is we look at those articles, we read them, we maybe even do a little research, investigate a little bit, and then we discuss it from a health and wellness perspective, the anti-tradition, anti-establishment type of treatments of, what's really going on here and who's right, who's wrong. But it's our perspective. So we always encourage you to do your own research. But our purpose when we do this podcast, so we can help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. And as always, I want you to know that Real Health Podcast is presented by the Frederick Podcast Network, is found on listenfrederick.com, among other social media platforms. We always post on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as YouTube.
And all the platforms you didn't even know exist. There's a lot of them. So we'll point them out here and there.
I don't even know they exist.
Oh, there's
Sean knows all about them.
Oh yeah, he knows all of them.
Yeah, Sean says hi. By the way, he's behind the camera.
He's actually been in front of the camera more and more. It's been very
please check
impressive.
out his day in the life of Sean. It was good. It helped me. It helped me a little bit get to know him better too. That was cool. But he does all the setups. You want to know how all this gets set up? Watch that video, and you'll see Sean actually setting up tables and microphones and everything. It's a good video. But getting into this, the first one we found, and we're going to talk a lot about cancer today. Obviously women's health, as Brandy said. This is from New York Times, and it says cancer's new face, younger and female. Blows me away. Historically, women have always been healthier than men. That's a fact. This is world history. And women live longer than men.
It's because you guys can't live without us. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, true. And God knows that. That's why we go first. And then, and also, cancer has always been an older age thing, and now younger and younger people are getting. Now, we did report on that in the past podcast, but so jumping right in, although long considered a disease of aging, certain cancers are turning up more often in younger women. According to a new report, more Americans are surviving cancer, but the disease is striking young and middle-aged adults and women more frequently, the American Cancer Society reported last Thursday. And despite overall improvements in survival, Black and Native Americans are dying of some cancers at rates 2 to 3 times higher than those among white Americans. These trends represent a marked change for an illness that has long been considered a disease of aging and which used to affect far more men than women. The shifts reflect declines in smoking-related cancers and prostate cancer among older men and a disconcerting rise in cancer in people born since the 1950s. That includes you and I.
Right. Well, here's what just popped into my mind is this. I go, it's so weird that not a developing country, we are developed, right? We're not a newly developing country.
Right.
So why is it with more technology, more medicine, we have just more
money.
and more.
We have
More money.
One of the richest countries
It doesn't
in the
feel
world.
like it right now with inflation. I feel that too. But the reality is, with all this more that we also have more cancer. So in my mind, I go, what is it that we have begun doing as we've developed that is so bad for us that it is increasing our risk of cancer exponentially? I mean, just in the past month, you and I have heard of 2 close people that are close to us whose family kids are diagnosed. Oh, I can't even. I'll cry. It's so sad. It's what we're doing. Okay, this is the first time I've gotten teary on our podcast. Usually I'm a crybaby anyway, but it's crazy to me.
There's a little girl who has a brainstem tumor.
Yes.
They told her with radiation she may live 12 months, and without she may live six more weeks.
Yeah.
So they've decided on doing some radiation, and they start that, I believe, this week.
Right. And I just, and then another one, 11, diagnosed with a cancer that is just never seen
rare,
in people under 50, especially, in the female population. And so you just go, what is it in our world, in our environment, in our culture that is pushing us into this? We should be seeing, if medicine is correct, we should be seeing less and less of this, not more and more. But yet we know that our foods, all the toxins, God knows what they're doing in the air and what's coming down. It's just crazy.
There's a lot of stats in this article. I was going to read them, but I think this was the one that hit me is cancer is the second leading cause of death. Mm-hmm. But when you look at population under the age of 85, it's the number 1 leading cause of death.
Yeah.
So that means all 85 and older are dying from more heart disease than cancer. Mm-hmm. 6 of 10 most common cancers are on the rise, including cancer of the breast, uterus, colorectal cancers, and these are in younger people. Women are also being diagnosed at younger ages. Cancer rates are rising among women under 50, as well as among women 50 to 64. Overall rates are flat in men under 50 and decreasing in those 50 to 64. So cancer in men has decreased, while in women it's risen. Incidence of cervical cancer has plummeted since the mid-70s, when pap smear screening to detect precancerous changes became widely available. But recent surveys have found many women are postponing visits to their gynecologist. A Harris Poll survey found that 72% of women said they had put off a visit to their doctor that would have included a screening. Half said they didn't know how frequently they should be screened for cervical cancer. Now, I think that one of the trends is more and more people don't trust medicine anymore. There's been so much controversy. Now, it's not all bad, and I'm not against certain screening methods. Pap smear certainly seems to be harmless.
When they're truly diagnostic and they're harmless.
They say get a pap smear every 3 years from age 21 and 29, then from 30 to 65, continue with a pap smear every 3 years. I don't know why it says it twice. It's basically every 3 years. Pap smear plus a test for human papillomavirus or get tested every 5 years for the virus. Another disturbing trend started in 2021, when the first time lung cancer incidence in women under 65 surpassed the incidence in men. Women took up smoking later than men, and they took longer to quit. I don't know.
That doesn't feel like
seems kind of weird.
yeah.
I don't know how accurate that is. There have also been upticks in smoking in people who are born after 1965, the year after the Surgeon General first warned that cigarettes cause cancer. Smoking will account for almost 500 cancer deaths daily in 2025. Unbelievable. 500 people are dying every day from smoking. I rarely see people smoke anymore. I mean, I see every once in a while I see someone smoke, but it's so rare now.
It is. It's really funny because sometimes when I see information like this, it feels like an overlay. It feels like, oh, let's create this stat
Yeah.
that will somewhat explain this, so we don't really have to talk about what really could be causing this.
Yeah, and this one doesn't have a citation as far as where they got the information
Oh,
from. Actually, it says American Cancer Society.
Yeah, but where's the link? This is what drives me nuts, is now in order to go find that, because if it was truly saying what they say it's saying, that link would be in here so you could easily discover it. But instead, they give you this, there's probably not the true title, so you can pull up the abstract, and you're going to have a hard time finding that stuff. If it even exists.
There are more e-cigarettes being used in vaping.
Well, we know, and that's something vastly different, because there are chemicals involved in that that is highly, highly, highly dangerous, and we've reported on that. So that's really the e-cigarettes. I'm not saying tobacco is good and
especially
safe.
the types that are banned, but they're still selling them.
Right. But we also have to know tobacco companies had additives in cigarettes that made them addictive and dangerous too, more dangerous. So it's not just about the nicotine.
You're telling them to roll their own cigarettes?
Right. Yes, for sure.
Like the Wild West?
I'm not saying roll or smoke anything for any. Do not quote me on that, and do not make that a short.
Breast cancer rates have also been have been inching up for many years, increasing by about 1% a year between 2012 and 2021. So you're like,
so what happened in 2012?
Right. Why? And what? Yeah. It's
Why
crazy.
wasn't it increasing every single year? See, that's the problem that I have with so many of these, is they give you such a small piece
And the
of
sharpest
information.
rises in women under 50.
Right.
Steep increases among Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islander women.
Yeah.
Explain that. These are healthy populations, you know, like well, I mean, you know, they say Pacific Islanders are healthy. They have a healthy diet. I don't know. It's not Mediterranean. I don't know. Some of the rise adults from changing fertility patterns. Childbearing and breastfeeding protect against breast cancer, but more women are postponing childbirth or are choosing not to bear children at all.
They also can't bear children because of everything that's been in our environment, and the rise of infertility is so astronomical. It wasn't like this before.
Right.
So again, I go, why is infertility so much greater now than it was 50 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 1 in 3, 1 in 5 women have infertility issues, and
It's astronomical.
Most men have a 50% lower sperm count than they did 100 years ago today.
Right.
Like 90% of men have 50% the sperm count that they used to have 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know exact number, so that's a guess. I've read something similar to it. So again, you know, we can certainly look up the. You guys can fact check us. That didn't exist before either. Fact checking.
Yeah, I actually would love that, because that means you're researching. It doesn't matter whose side you're researching for or against. Please research, because this data is out there.
Yeah.
Like it's a little scary.
There's an uptick in heavy drinking in women under 50, which is leading to some of this. I thought women and men under 50 drank a lot already. I don't know why. Maybe they're depressed.
Maybe they're being led to drink because of all of these horrible stats that they're having to see.
Uterine cancer is the only cancer for which survival has actually decreased over the past 40 years. Death rates are also rising for liver cancer among women and for cancers of the oral cavity for both sexes. That means mouth. Why don't they say mouth? Oral cavity.
I had to think about it for a second. And I'm like, for both men and women. What? Okay.
Do we both have an oral cavity?
I hope so.
Pancreatic cancer is now the third leading cause of cancer death. Obesity is believed to contribute to pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer death rates have been rising since record keeping started, rising to 13 per 100,000 in men and 10 per 100,000 in women, up from about 5 per 100,000 in both men and women in the 1930s. So that's 95 years ago. So 95 years ago, it was less than half. It was a little over a third.
Right.
Pancreatic cancer. So you go, and if obesity is contributing to that, it's diet related.
Right. Which means what?
We're eating ourselves dead.
Right. So then it also leads back to the food, right? Because
Yeah.
I guarantee you
It's not the same
they're
food.
not chewing on carrots.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
We need to create a time machine, go to 1930 and bring back the food.
100%. Or maybe we just go back there.
Start a campaign, bring back the food.
Bring back the 30s. Okay.
Environmental exposures are, so I like, at least they are talking about environment.
Yeah.
They never used to before. They always talked about genetics, but now they're saying environmental exposures and lifestyle is part of it. But they do mention genetics and family history. Now, this doctor here said, I think that the rise is not just one, but a variety of variety of cancers in younger people, particularly in young women, suggests there is something broader going on than variations in individual genetics or population genetics. Thank you very much. This is
Finally.
Dr. Neil Iyengar, an oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which is a very prestigious center. He said, I strongly point to the possibility that environmental exposure and our lifestyle in the U.S. are contributing to the rise of cancers in young people.
100%.
Thank you. Well, now that you say this, can you start working on that?
Right.
Because they don't. They say that, and then they go right back to doing research on cancer treatment,
Right.
which is not wrong, but you can prevent it, and we can save many more lives by cleaning that environment up.
Right. Let's start with the ultra processed food right there. Let's get rid of all the food dyes. Thank you for getting rid of red.
Yep.
Thank goodness for that. But there's much more work to be done. Let's get rid of the rest of the
Technically,
food
it's
dyes.
not banned until 2026 or something like that, or 27. But
Yeah,
at
because
least,
how hard is it just to stop?
yeah, we got some money. We got to sell the ones we've made so we don't lose money. Emerging research hints that maintaining regular sleeping patterns, for example, may also help to prevent cancer. So we've talked about sleep is so important. He says, I don't think, this is another doctor said, I don't think people realize how much control they have over their cancer risk.
Woo!
There's so much we can all do. Don't smoke is the most important.
That's not the most important. That's one of them.
That's just one, yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean,
agree.
sleep, so vital to
Mindset.
repair. Mindset, food, what you're taking in, your
Yeah.
chemicals, the load of toxicity, including prescriptions.
Yeah.
Like all of those things matter.
So staying on the theme for cancer,
Because why not?
I last time we talked about Joe Rogan, our podcast got canceled and removed, and no one could watch the video anymore.
So if there's a lot of bleep outs,
Yeah.
it's Sean is trying to keep this episode on
So,
YouTube.
so you can actually watch the video, because that one episode you can only hear it now. You can't watch it. But this is from Newsweek. They report on the fact that Mel Gibson told Joe Rogan Ivermectin cured stage 4 cancer. I watched the interview, and I know you read the article. But in the interview, he said he had 3 friends who had cancer, and all 3 took Ivermectin.
Yeah.
And all 3 recovered.
Benzidol. I can't say it all.
Fenbendazole.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, there you go. What do you think?
Ivermectin was
they need to
actually was a drug approved by the World Health Organization and was originally taken to, for those of you who are not familiar, because I think all of us heard the word ivermectin a lot during COVID. And I just laughed so hard because the FDA worked so, and the CDC worked so hard to push people against using ivermectin. It hasn't been studied. There's no good evidence, blah, blah, blah. Then why didn't you study it?
Well, they
better?
also said that it's only for animals and it's not for humans.
That's not
the,
true.
The founders won a Nobel Prize for creating it,
Yes.
and they won it for humans, for human
Yes.
consumption, and it's an
And it was
anti-parasitic.
approved
Yeah,
by the CDC and the FDA.
it's approved by everybody for human consumption.
So for them that's what was
Right.
just nuts for them to even say that. I think
Right.
Gupta actually was like, they should never have done that. They should never have said that when CDC or when FDA put that statement out about ivermectin during, I think they put it out on social media, and they're like, that's for animals. What are you all doing? LOL. Like they did this really weird like post, and they were actually sued for it.
Oh, interesting.
Which nobody heard about, but they were actually required to take that those posts down. But the reality is, ivermectin was originally created to get rid of worms and parasites. Which in my studies that I did when a friend of ours, she asked us she said, hey, I thought I'd get in touch with my friend. What do you know about ivermectin? And so we kind of dove into it, and I'm just blown away that, number one, it was used for parasites before. I thought this was interesting, and that we used to give a parasitic treatment to almost everyone, like pre-World War II.
It actually works on the nervous system of the parasite.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So like everyone, it was almost like a feel-good treatment because parasites were very common, I guess, back then. And what's funny is we've stopped using it, and we've stopped really caring about parasites. You never hear medical doctors going, well, I wonder if this could be an issue with parasites. Have you ever? I've never heard a doctor say that.
No, and I think a lot of people do have parasites that they're not aware of.
Well, you can get it from the soil. You can get it from not washing your fruits and vegetables. They're microscopic. Some of them you can't see. You can get it from other people. There's a number of.
I found out ivermectin comes in a cream form for lice too.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, and other skin parasites.
That's crazy. I find it really interesting. Once somebody reached out to ask Mel Gibson to comment on his show with Joe Rogan, and they declined to comment. And I just kind of giggled because Mel has actually been in the news quite a bit lately, because of the fires in LA and whatnot. And he's very out there with his thoughts and opinions, which I so appreciate. And I also giggled that they wouldn't say anything. They're probably telling him you need to calm down.
I like it. He believes there's a natural cure for
everything.
Everything. He said there isn't a human disease that doesn't have a natural cure. And this guy's not a doctor. He's a movie producer,
Right.
and an actor. However, let's think about it. If the disease naturally occurred, then there should be a natural way of preventing it, and there should be a natural way of eradicating it.
Right.
Now, when it comes to ivermectin, I think we may need to make this a 2-part episode and dive a little deeper into that. Get into the. I have an article that is like, I don't know, 50 pages long, and it's all detailed. So we may need a little extra time for that. But what else did Gibson here say?
Well, I think the big thing is that ivermectin and bendazole, thank you. They're currently being studied for anti-cancer properties, but I really feel like they're not being studied to the degree that they really should. I feel like it's one of those things where we're like, we'll get to it. And it's mind-boggling to me because, when the FDA chooses to use a medication or a pharmaceutical for off-label use, like it's all good. Like, oh, look, we found this will help contractions. Let's use this for contractions instead of what the on-label
But
uses.
now it's listed as a treatment for COVID-19. But the biggest study that was done on it, which included 1,430 some subjects that had COVID that required hospitalization and had respiratory issues, and they found no effect as far as whether it improved their health or not. But people swear that when they take ivermectin, they get over COVID within 24 to 48 hours.
Right. So for me,
who do you listen to? I mean, this study was legitimate, and it was an unbiased, like an actual
Right.
research study that said it doesn't help COVID one bit.
But here's my challenge with some of those, especially when the study was done, because we all know that part of the reason nobody wanted this ivermectin to be touched is because we were trying to funnel people in one specific direction.
Right, I understand.
And we
that.
wanted
And
everyone to go
I
in
think
that pathway.
Our audience knows that as
Right.
well.
So,
You know, the people I was listening to who were talking about these citations about ivermectin, and they're not the establishment doctors. They're the one, they were saying, no, vitamin D, zinc, curcumin, quercetin. They're talking about these natural things that actually boost the immune system, help you prevent COVID as well as reduce the symptoms, help you
Right.
recover faster. And a large group of them were saying when we, and some of them said we don't prescribe it. Some said we will prescribe it if the patient asks for it. But they were all saying there still is no data that says that it actually helps. And then I listened to and read some of the work of some oncologists and other cancer experts, PhDs and so on, who say ivermectin, because this has been big about
Right.
cancer ever since he talked about it, but I think even before that there was talk about it. And they're saying that it doesn't have tumor shrinking properties, which means it can't qualify and be classified as an anti-cancer drug. Now, this is talking about, when we get into the other article, it talks about immune system boosters and interleukins and how it increases your body's ability to fight cancer itself,
right.
which is innate immune system. And it also says that when given along with chemotherapy and radiation, it seems to make it work better. Yet there was this case study that one oncologist was talking about. She said her patient had stage 4 prostate cancer. They had done everything, and the doctor said, there's nothing we can do. And the patient said, please do more radiation. He said, it's not going to help you. We need to put you in hospice. And then he went on his own, got ivermectin. And within a year, he was in 100%. Now, stage 4, on his deathbed, pain everywhere, weakness in his legs. I mean, it was eaten up. He had metastatic cancer in his bones, in his spine. All of that went away with ivermectin and nothing else.
Well, here was my thought on why ivermectin may be helpful in all of these situations. And here was my thought is if by chance it is simply doing what the drug was created to do, which is what? Get rid of parasites. And if there are parasites in the body, you cannot heal. You cannot experience health and vitality. You have something that has taken over the host body and it no longer functions as it was created to function, right?
Right.
So my thought in this, and I am not a doctor, I just play one on the podcast. Just kidding. My thought is, what if the drug is doing what it's supposed to do, which is get rid of the parasites. And then what happens is the body is able to begin fighting and getting rid of, autophagy is something it's built into the body. Maybe it allows that to begin to happen.
Yeah. You don't know what it's killing. You have no idea. And there's no way to know what each drug. We don't really know what aspirin does when you throw it in the body.
Oh, but it's considered the wonder drug.
And in fact, they were given aspirin to people who had COVID to prevent blood clots, but then its antipyretic effects, because it reduces fevers.
Right.
It was blocking their healing ability.
Right, because fevers are important. It's an important thing in the body.
Part of innate immune response. Well, anyways, I think we dug into this quite a bit. Was there anything else about the Joe Rogan interview you wanted to mention?
No, I just I think it's something that we need to study just a little bit more and maybe dive into. I've just kind of went down some rabbit holes with these medications. I didn't know what river blindness was. That was really fun to,
It's a parasite.
but it's fascinating stuff. So I think it could be,
Maybe we hit it up again next week.
yeah, I think we have a couple more articles, and I want to make sure. Thank you, Mandy, for sending me over the information on ivermectin. I think we could do some more with it, and I know there's a lot more research out there. So thank you for sending that to us, because it was really fun to begin to dive into this, because it was such a hot topic, during COVID. So
Yeah, and the dosages that they used in that one study with COVID-19, they're very low doses, and the ones that people take are much higher. Now, not close to the toxic levels, but much higher. But the research didn't do it at those higher doses.
Right.
So definitely more research needs to be done on that. Right now, I'm on the fence. I don't know if ivermectin should be taken for cancer. I don't know if ivermectin should be taken for COVID. But the anecdotal evidence is high that it does help both. So you got to do your own research. Yeah. Until next time, we truly appreciate you joining us. Please share and subscribe, comment, interact with us. We appreciate you greatly.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.